If you're looking for a computer that offers the best of being a laptop as well as being a tablet, whilst at the same time having the ability to run a full desktop OS and Android apps, then the Acer Chromebook Spin 311 might just be what you're looking for. Hey, what up? It's your boy MobbJustice back again with another video, and for today we are getting into a review around the Acer Chromebook Spin 311. As always, this video is brought to you by the team over at Lion Media. Head on over to check out some of the crispiest photo, video, and audio content. That's www.lionmedia.com. Head on over, check it out, and just see what the team can do for you. Now, this is the second Chromebook that we featured on the channel last year. We actually had yet another Acer Chromebook that we featured. I'll leave that link in the description. You can go check that out. But unlike that one, which was a full 15-inch laptop size machine, I was quite interested in this one because it was really small in terms of the form factor, and it also offers a tablet mode because, as the name suggests, it spins into a tablet mode. That's why it's called the Spin 311. Shout out to the team over at Acer South Africa who sent me the machine. I had it for about a month or so, just using it, seeing some of the ins and outs. Acer did not pay for this review. Right off the bat, I would say that this is a machine that's good for people that are looking for something that is, first, affordable, two, that is flexible between being a tablet and being a laptop, and then third, also another form of flexibility in the ability to carry mobile apps on the Android side. Now, between my first Chromebook review, which was last year, and now, Google has now extended full support for ChromeOS and Chromebooks in South Africa, where I'm currently at. And it's a very interesting move because I was able to engage with some of their team. I will link an article in the description, and it seems that they're quite serious, particularly around the entry-level market, the student market, and also what's going on in the home, driven by digitalization and work from home trends, and what's going on because of the COVID-19 pandemic. In using the machine, I mainly focused on some light work productivity as well as media consumption. If you've watched any of my laptop reviews in the past, you know that I mainly focus on video editing and heavy type of production work. But because we're dealing with ChromeOS, I wanted to use it in the scenarios that people will most likely be using a Chromebook for. In terms of specs, I'm going to display some of these on the screen, but when it comes to things like Chromebook, one of the big advantages of the platform has always been the fact that it's a cloud-based operating system, which means that as long as you're connected to the internet, a lot of the processing is being done in the cloud as opposed to being on a machine, and that's always been one of the big advantages and why Chromebooks tend to come in at lower prices, because they don't necessarily need some of those heavy specs. A standard machine will see you having things like 4 gigs of RAM as well as 64 gigabytes of internal flash storage. The display, not too crazy, just over 720p, and you can definitely see the pixels if you peep a little, but from my testing, it wasn't too bad. I actually enjoyed how that display looked. In terms of build quality and design, this is a Spin 311, and that 311 means that it has an 11-inch screen, which shows you just how small that thing is. So if you think about devices such as the 11-inch MacBook Air from back in the day, you can sort of see where we're going, or something like a standard iPad that sort of gives you the footprint that we're talking about in terms of length and width. But in terms of that, there's also the 360 fold that it does, going into tablet mode. And then one of my favorite features is the fact that it comes with USB Type-C, and that's on both sides of the device. So it means you can charge your device, from either the left or the right side first, and then secondly, if you're like like me and you have an Android device such as this Samsung phone, it means you can carry one cable that is able to charge both your phone and your computer. Definitely an advantage. Something to keep in mind is that this is an entry-level device that has an all plastic build, so nothing to write home about. It is a sturdy frame and it does do the job. The screen for me is probably the most interesting bit about this machine. This is not going to be one of those crazy 4K displays. As I said earlier on, it's just above 720. But because it's such a small screen at 11 inches, you can see the pixels if you do peep, but for the most part, you're going to be quite happy with the viewing experience. I was consuming a lot of content in terms of YouTube video and that type of thing. And as far as I could tell, it was really great. It's, it's quite vibrant, but unfortunately, it's not the brightest of screens. And I found that in situations where there's a lot of ambient light, you do struggle quite a bit. So if you're someone who's going to be trying to use a machine, out in public, maybe outside, and that type of, this is definitely not going to be the greatest viewing experience from that point of view. The other thing that one would notice about this screen is the fact that as small as this device is and as small as the screen is, the bezel is huge, especially in this environment where a lot of manufacturers are trying to eliminate bezels or trying to minimize them in one way or another. It's quite a bit of a shock to the system, at least at the moment, to see such big bezels on a device. But those bezels do serve a function because when you do switch the device over into tablet mode, you find yourself, where your hands, your fingers and your thumbs, naturally rest themselves. There's a lot of space for you to not have accidental touches and that type of thing, which tends to be a problem with some of the tablets out there that have very thin bezels. I know that with the new Samsung Galaxy Tabs, for example, that's been one of the reported issues. So interesting one. Big bezels, but they do serve a purpose. The one thing I do wish the machine had in terms of the typing experience when you look at the keyboard specifically is a backlit keys, because these are not backlit. So if you find yourself in a dark room or a dark area, you just kind of have to rely on the glow that comes from the screen to actually see what's going on. Now, because this is a Chromebook, one of the big things that one has to talk about is the software experience, because this is running Google's ChromeOS, and I actually got the machine after a recent update which allows for scanning of documents, speech recognition to notes, arranging some of the Chrome tabs, and this was actually updated in early April. I've already mentioned the fact that because this runs Google's ChromeOS, it also supports Android applications as well, and I find that to be one of the biggest advantages. For example, I use the YouTube app quite a lot, especially on mobile devices. One of the things that I like the most about it is that at least in this part of the world, you have the ability to download videos for offline viewing, which is something that you can't do on a desktop browser, right? So because this can run the mobile version of the YouTube app, I was able to download some of my favorite shows, use them, on a commute, view them from that point of view. But interestingly, one or two things that I noticed in the software experience is the fact that this device plays videos using the gallery app, but those videos, it can't be complex codecs. For that, you'd have to get yourself a player such as VLC. The other one is that ChromeOS now implements a desktop setup, sort of like the one that we see over on macOS, where you have one or two different desktops that can be run at the same time. The other thing to like about ChromeOS is the fact that because it is running a Google desktop operating system, there are constant updates that are coming along, and there were a couple during my time of testing. Moving on to some impressions and quirks about the machine itself. Firstly, I mentioned the fact that there's an update that now allows people to scan documents, but it's a little bit awkward because it uses the front-facing camera. Now, unlike a smartphone where you can scan documents using the back camera and do that, this one uses a front camera, which means your scanning is you holding document in front of the camera, which can look a little bit awkward. The other one is that the machine that I specifically was using, it seemed to not sleep at all. Literally, the moment you put it down, you open it up, it's right back where you left it. It doesn't seem to have any boot up or any sleep mode that it enters. The other quirk of such a machine is the keyboard, right? Because this is a convertible type of machine, so when it's over in tablet mode, you've got the keys on the back, and I personally find such a mode to be a little bit awkward. I know that convertible devices like this have been around for a number of years, but I personally still find it awkward to hold a machine and still be feeling the keys at the back, as opposed to a hard surface like you would get on a normal tablet. But that said, as soon as you get into tablet mode, those keys aren't responsive anymore, which is really great because it means you can rest your hands knowing full well that you're not going to be accidentally typing anything. Some observations too in particular. First, the speakers. I say it time and time again when it comes to any type of laptop machine. These are great. These are okay. They are not great. I would suggest that if you do have an external speaker of some sort or headphones, you'd rather go in that direction. One of the biggest strengths of this machine is the battery life. I got easily over 14 hours of use from a single charge. Acer actually rates the battery at about 16 hours, so I think those two things are in alignment, at least from my testing. In terms of productivity, if you're going to be typing out documents, the keyboard is really great. Despite being small, you have really good key travel, and it's not squishy like what we see on other machines. It sort of reminds me of the typing experience that we had over on the 2015 MacBooks before Apple came in with the ill-fated butterfly switches. But at the same time, there's also an on-screen keyboard that I personally found a little bit harder to get used to, especially when it came to hitting the spacebar, because it does convert into a tablet, so you do have an on-screen keyboard that does come into play, but for me, a little bit hard to get used to. The last thing to note is that because this is a Google Chromebook, the productivity apps for presentations, word processing, as well as spreadsheets are all going to come from the G Suite of online productivity tools. If you are someone who's used those, then you're going to be in a good position. One of the things that's really been great over the years is the fact that they've been introducing more of an offline mode. And I remember saying in my first Chromebook review that when it comes to using ChromeOS, you really need to have a good internet connection because a lot of it is web-based. But at least from a productivity point of view, you do have that ability to turn on offline mode so that you can work environments where there isn't internet. So overall, I'd say that this is a great machine for someone who's first looking for a media consumption device that will not break the bank, and then secondly, for the student market where such devices have really become popular around the world, and understandably so, because they come in at an affordable price, and also at the same time they do offer a lot of productivity tools that students can take advantage of. But one of the biggest caveats, I did say that offline mode is available for things like the G Suite, but this is going to be a machine that is best used in an online environment. Yes, you can store some things locally, but you're going to get the best experience if you're connected to the internet, and that is one of the biggest things that a person buying a Chromebook, any Chromebook, will have to think about. Lastly, I'm quite excited to see the development of ChromeOS, and this particular review was great because I got to experience ChromeOS first in the laptop mode that I've been used to, but also what it can do in a touch environment. I think there's a little bit of way to go from that point of view, but at least there's the advantage of being able to use native Android apps that have been made as a touch first interfaces factors. So all of that is really working well, and I'm quite excited to see what other form factors will come from the platform. So that's been it for this review. You can let me know what you think in the comments. Are you someone who uses ChromeOS? How long have you been using it for? Are you someone who's new to the platform, or someone who's thinking about switching over, or at least trying out the platform? You can let me know what you think in the comments. I will definitely be trying to see if we can get our hands on more Chromebooks, just so that we can expand and see what other form factors there are, what are the use cases people can have out there. So that's been it. I'll catch you guys in the next video.
Hey, this is Baby G and you're watching the MobbJustice channel. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Live it, love it, like it. This is the MobbJustice TV.